Hank Marvin, one of the world's greatest guitarists, best known as the lead guitarist in Cliff Richard's backing band The Shadows, the most successful instrumental band in British history. He's influenced generations of musicians. He's created his sound out of a Fender guitar. He's bringing, though, a new brand of Marvin magic to our shores. He's got an acoustic quartet, 2 guitars, an accordion and a double bass, and they're recreating the music of the great gypsy jazz guitarist Django Reinhardt and the violinist Stefan Grappelli. And he's in New Zealand for a nationwide tour. It's kicked off this week in Auckland and it's ending in Dunedin at the end of the month. Hank Marvin, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
You okay with being called a legend?
A legend, yeah. People call me lots of things, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, you are. And many people do. Jeff Beck, all sorts of people say that you inspired them. But reading some of the interviews with you, you're your own worst critic as well. So I thought maybe you might not want to call yourself a legend. I don't know.
I'm sometimes probably too hard on myself. You like to make everything of a high quality. I like to try to get things of a good standard, and sometimes it's counterproductive, because you beat yourself up too much. But it's one way of improving, because you want to keep on moving forward musically, and I think if you start getting a little bit oversatisfied with what you're doing, then you start stagnating as an artist, which is not a good thing.
Well, actually, I was thinking about when you first started back in the 50s, the Two Eyes Club in London, you and Bruce Welch, and you were like 16?
Yeah.
Just kids, and going along to this jazz club and watching guitarists that you didn't necessarily like their sound, but you liked their technique, so you're always learning then, right from the start.
Well, the Two Eyes actually was a coffee bar, basically. A coffee bar, street level, and a cellar below, about the size of a living room, I suppose. And they used to cram lots of people in there on the weekends. It had a little tiny stage at one end, just deep enough for a drum kit to go on, so the musicians stood in a line. We started playing down there 5-6 nights a week, Bruce and I, in different bands. The guy who ran the place would just, okay, you're on, you're on, you're on, you're on. So you never knew who you were playing with, which was fun. And we just had to keep on learning new songs. We'd listen to what's on the jukebox, try and work out the chords, learn the lyrics and the tunes, and fit them into the performances.
Yeah. They say the Two Eyes Club is where the hand jive was invented.
That's what they say, yeah. And the reason for that, of course, is there was no room to move to dance. You couldn't dance in a conventional way with your feet. So they brought this little idea where they moved their hands and had these different sort of choreographed movements. And that became the hand jive.
Amazing. It must be amazing to know that you were there at the very start of so much. Musically, just like the Cavern Club in Liverpool, the Two Eyes, whatever.
Yeah, well, look, the Two Eyes in those days was a place where a lot of us who wanted to try to get into the music industry would go, because it had a reputation as a place where certain individuals who had subsequently become popular had been discovered in that coffee bar. Hence, that became a sort of like, attracting the bees. We all used to gather around there. But I guess we were pretty much at the start of the British rock and roll movement. Obviously, we got the ideas from the USA. That's where rock and roll started. And it was something which excited us very much. We loved the style of the music. And I, of course, used to listen to the guitarists and love their approach. It was very different to anything I'd heard before. So I was trying to emulate the American guitars, or the guitar sounds and the guitar styles. And then because I probably wasn't very good at it, I developed my own style, which is a better thing to do anyway.
We'll talk about your style a bit later. It's a lovely style. Talking about your love of the American guitar sound, is it true that you had the very first Fender Stratocaster in the United Kingdom?
Yes, as far as you know, that was the case. Cliff bought it for me back in 1959, summer of 59. It was a beautiful red Stratocaster with gold-plated hardware, bird's eye maple neck, and something which was most crucial to the development of my style. It had what they call a vibrato bar, a tremolo arm.
A whammy.
Actually, a vibrato bar, now a whammy bar. Yeah, that's the cool term. And that was it. That was just brilliant for me, because I wanted to try to get more expression out of a guitar. And in those days, we had very heavy strings. And I used to love the sound of a sax with this vibrato, like emulating a human voice. How the heck can you do that with these heavy strings? Once I got the whammy bar, I could do that.
Yeah.
Just give a little shake, or you could be violent with it and create a specific wild effect. Dip strings, pull them up, all kind of stuff. So that became a very much an integral part of my style. And without that whammy bar, my style wouldn't have developed.
No. Do you know where the guitar is now?
At the moment, as I speak, it will be in the hands of Bruce Welch, who...
From The Shadows as well, yep.
Yeah, who for years claimed...
it was his.
Claimed Cliff had given it to him, because I gave it back to Cliff, you see. And a few years ago, Cliff said to me, he said, I didn't give him the guitar. He said he borrowed it, never gave it back. He said, if I give it to anybody, it'd be you. He said, in fact, I'm going to leave it to you in my will. So... on the Cliff and the Shadows reunion tour, and we were here about 3 years ago in New Zealand on that tour, Brian Bennett, the Shadows drummer, said to me, Hank, he said, we're going to get the bottom of this. So one night after a show, we were eating, and he said, right, Bruce, what's the true story about this guitar, you see? And Bruce said, well, Cliff gave it to me. He said, no, I don't think he did he? You see? And I said, well, Cliff has another story. And he said, well, actually, I asked to borrow it, and he let me borrow it. I just never gave him the guitar back, so I think it's mine now.
Yeah, good on you. And of course, you're talking about the whammy, the vibrato. The thing about the Hank Marvin is that you play the tune.
Yeah.
You don't take the tune away and say, I'm better than the composer. You play the tune, therefore doing the little shimmies and shakes. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Look, when we started doing these instrumentals, it was the style, if you like, of the day to play the tune. And if it was a good tune, why ruin it and say, well, I can come up with something better than this? No, usually you can't. So my approach to it was to try to interpret the tune and get as much expression into it as I could, get the sound right, even the choice of strings or where I'd play the tune on the fingerboard would make a difference to the sound. So all those things came into play. And I think that's why so many people like what we did. They want a good tune. They like to hear the tune. And when people start messing around with it, it seems to create a bit of resistance.
So in a way, you're doing this again with the music of Django Reinhardt. I'll just start playing a little bit here. You're true to the tune, aren't you?
Yeah, there is improvisation later on in this piece, but I do establish the tune first of all. And that's what we do with all our numbers in this genre. We establish the head or the tune. And it's interesting, a lot of these pieces of music are very accessible to a modern audience. When they hear them, they go, wow, this is not like, we always think of jazz as being complicated and long, drawn-out solos. Well, we don't do that. We like to establish a tune. We've got good structured arrangements, and the improvisations are not overlong.
Yeah. And does this feel like going back to your very first love of guitar?
It does in some ways.
Yeah.
Because it's played on acoustic guitar. Although they're special guitars, they're gypsy jazz guitars, which are based on the Selmers that Django himself used. And they sound a little different to the American flat-top style guitars. A different sound, really. They project very well. They've got a very light soundboard. That's the bit on the top of the guitar where the hole is. And it vibrates very easily. So the attack on the guitar is very good.
Listen to you. You're such a wonderful technician. And
Not
yet
really.
and yet with soul and heart to give it more, Yeah, fantastic stuff. And I understand you've been working with Peter Frampton and Mark Knopfler as well. Again, guys who are reinventing themselves by going back to the past.
Yeah.
You could say.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff around the past, wasn't there?
Oh, of course there was.
We can revisit, maybe use some of the ideas or whatever.
You can do whatever you want. You've had the success. You can do that. I see that Cliff has come out with his 100th studio record, and the refrain from Cliff always, bless his heart, is "Why don't they play me on the radio?"
Yeah.
But you don't care about that anymore yourself. You don't need to be played on the radio, do you?
Look, everybody would like to be played on the radio. Obviously, if you have a product, you know that you've either got to sell it through TV, or TV and radio, or you just, people just happen to see you in live shows and want to buy it. But there's also a reality check in that as the music scene has changed and the programming of stations goes, it means a certain artist won't get played. Yeah. You just have to accept that. And I've had a very successful career, which has always amazed me, really, that we had the success we had. I certainly wouldn't complain about that or complain about where I am now. I'm just enjoying life. This is like a fun thing for me to do.
Yeah.
Gypsy swing.
Why not? You deserve it. You're 71. You look fantastic. What's the secret?
I'll be 72 in a few days' time,
Oh,
so
dear.
don't rub it in. It's actually drugs play an important part of this, but the right balance.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we were fortunate that when we started, there wasn't a drug scene, and by the time the drugs came on the scene in this kind of mid-60s,
Yeah.
I was personally scared of trying anything like that. I just thought, no, where's this going to go? So and I think I'm probably an addictive sort of person, so I could see me getting really involved in ending up in a blooming stretcher somewhere.
Look, good on you. You look very, very good.
Thank
and
you. You smooth talker. What are you doing later?
And enjoying the touring? I mean, it's hard yakka, I know, but...
Look, I don't do much now. I really don't want to go on the road on long tours anymore. I was used to working at a very high level. You've got a decent-sized crew. You're well looked after. This sort of little tour, it's beautifully short, 9 gigs. We got the chance to come to beautiful New Zealand, which I've always enjoyed, and a chance to play this music, which we love playing at the moment. And that's it as far as I'm concerned. It's just it'll be fun. It'll be a pleasure.
A life well lived. What's the lesson you learnt from it?
I guess life throws up a lot of lessons. One thing is, I think that you need to respect people, whether it be your audience, whether it be just people that you meet. Everyone is someone. Everyone deserves dignity, and I think that sadly too many people get up themselves and they have a bit of success and they start clicking their fingers at people, you must not have eye contact, or they treat drivers like Mark. I've heard all the stories, and that's not good. Everyone deserves dignity and be treated with respect. And I think if we all did that, the world, society would be a much better place.
Well, you're still a true gentleman. You always will. You always were. You always will be. And good luck. Break a leg for the tour.
Thank you.
But don't touch the fingers.
Don't touch the fingers, lad.